Welcome to Booth School of Business Application Walkthrough session. My name is Chavi Hartley, and I'll be your host today. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce Bill Kuzer, Director at Fortuna, former Associate Dean, Chicago Booth. Bill is an incredible resource with years of insight into what it takes to submit a standout application in one of the world's most rigorous MBA programs. In this session, we are going to take a step-by-step look at the Chicago Booth MBA application process. You will gain practical insight into how to present a compelling, well-rounded application, one that reflects your goals, your potential, and your fit with Booth's values. Booth is celebrated for its flexible curriculum, a deeply analytical and data-driven approach to decision-making, and its commitment to academic rigor and real-world applications. At Booth, students are empowered to chart their own MBA journeys, tailoring their experience to match their career goals, all while developing a deep understanding of how markets work and how to solve complex business challenges. Bill is going to go through a PowerPoint or presentation. After his walkthrough, we will move into a live Q&A sessions. To participate, please use the chat tab at the bottom of the screen to submit your questions. Don't forget to upvote the questions you'd like to be answered most. Thank you. On to you, Bill. The virtual stage is yours.
Great. Thank you, Chavi. Great to be here with everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. So in addition to having worked at Chicago Booth for 30 years, I'm also a Booth graduate from long before it was Booth. So I have lots of Booth experience, spent a lot of time reviewing applications, and obviously wrote my own application many, many years ago. So what I'm going to do is walk through the application that you can find online, and then hopefully be able to chat through some questions that you might have as we go through. But before I begin that, I'd like to give you just some broad ideas of how to think about applications. And the first thing really is, as soon as you've identified your target schools, is to start that application. Get your name and address in there. That will get you set up on the school's radar, basically, so that you'll be invited to webinars, information sessions, other events that the school might have. So if you are interested in a set of schools, make sure you get that application form started, even if you're not going through the entire process all at once. Again, you just want to make sure that the school is aware of who you are. The second thing is, again, once you've identified a school as a target school for you, do open the application and read through the entire application itself, much as we'll do today. There are many ideas and questions on these application forms that might be surprising, that you might need to think a bit about, that are not kind of listed as the traditional essays. And you want to know about those items long before you actually have to press the submit button. I've had too many clients in the past who, within a day or two to go before submission, they realize, oh, I have to come up with 250 words on my career goal. And so things like that, you don't want to be surprised. And then the third thing, again, this is a broad comment about all applications, is do read the message from the dean or any other messages, broad commentary from school officials. That'll give you a sense of the things that the school thinks are important. A little bit about their philosophy of education, a little bit about their culture. And those are ideas and issues that may be useful for you as you're thinking about which schools you might want to attend, and in explaining why you want to attend a particular school. So again, we're starting right here with this welcome screen on the Chicago Booth application. This is a message from the dean and something you should definitely be reading. He talks about the things that are important to the folks at Chicago. So this idea of business frameworks, what Booth calls the Chicago approach. I would encourage you all to kind of think about learning more about the Chicago approach. It's their philosophy of education, and they think very highly of it. It's an important element of the Chicago education. The flexibility, Chavi mentioned that. It is one of the most flexible curricula in the world, actually, at this point. So an important element of the Booth framework, Booth education. And then the community. They talk a lot about a pay-it-forward community at Booth. So again, some of the things that you might want to learn more about that might resonate with you as in your own journey, and certainly something you want to reflect on as you're talking about why you want to go to Booth. Okay, so we're just going to walk through and touch on some of the key elements of the application. So we've got our welcome, we've got program coming up. There we go. Just basic, again, these are just basic ideas of what round you're going to apply to. This particular section really asks about joint degree programs. So if you're thinking about a joint JD MBA or other, Booth has a large number of joint programs at this point. You have to indicate that you're interested in the joint degree as opposed to the straight up full-time MBA program. So just be aware of that. And so you'll come down here and identify which program you're applying to, full-time or one of the joint degrees. And also, they also like to know if you got your undergraduate degree from the University of Chicago. No great benefit to that, other than if you've come from the University of Chicago, you have a sense of the rigor, the character, the culture of the university itself. All right, then we get into the basic biographical information. Pretty straightforward. You can see my name here. So gets into language, gets into where you're coming from. All of this is usually for statistical purposes more than anything else. It is not really used in the evaluation. It gives them a sense once their applications are all collected, they can identify, where the application's coming from, where do we do well, where do we perhaps need to do better in our marketing and recruitment efforts. Okay. Then obviously you want to consent to the privacy notice. And then this is actually an interesting element too. So do think, most people kind of really don't think too much about, but if you've had a significant traffic violation, if you've had, for example, a DUI, or you've had some other challenge, they will likely find this out in the background check. So, be honest. And I guess that's my comment for the entire application is be honest, be truthful, be complete. Personal history, and pretty straightforward information, kind of how you identify yourself, which pronouns do you use. And this is primarily for statistical purposes to give them a sense of who is applying and ultimately who is in their class. There is very little evaluative material in this part of the application. They'd like to know a little bit more about your family. So you are going to be asked to provide information on parents, spouses, significant others. So again, you have this drop down to kind of indicate who you're talking about. Again, father, mother, stepmother, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what your current marital status is as well, and children. Some of this is mostly statistical. However, if you are the first person in your family to attend university, that can be an interesting positive for you. So again, if that applies to you, you want to make sure that that is clear in your application. And then we get into a little bit about what you are looking for out of business school. So again, I would go in and make sure you check out, as they say, the Booth experience to kind of learn about what other Booth students have said, what Booth alumni have said about the school, giving you some ideas of what you might talk about in terms of why you want to go to the school. Also give you some ideas, perhaps, of whether this is the right fit for you. So do pay attention to that. I would also encourage you to reach out to students or alumni, friends that might have attended the school, to learn a little bit more about their view of the school, what's the culture like, what they liked, what they disliked, favorite classes, favorite professors. Again, all of that is very helpful when it comes to talking about why you want to attend the school. Booth offers a wide variety of concentrations, majors, if you will, and they'd like to know which ones you're thinking about. And that is not a single one. At Booth, you can, yes, they're saying select a maximum of 2. And actually at Booth, you can probably, depending on how you set up your coursework, you can probably earn 3 or 4. But they just like to know what you're thinking about. Again, this is largely for their planning purposes, to get a sense of where's the market going. And do we need to be doing more in a particular area of our curriculum to make sure that we're meeting the needs and demands of our students? So you can see here, all alphabetical here. The applied AI is a relatively new one. Entrepreneurship has been there forever. Finance, Booth has long been known as finance school, but great curriculum in management and marketing as well. So you kind of get a general sense of what's there. All right. They do want to know if you have applied to Booth before. That way they can bring up your old application, and anytime you are reapplying, they will look at your old application. So they don't start completely fresh. They will take a look at what you did before and take a look at how you might have improved since the last time you applied. And University of Chicago Dugan Scholar, that is a university undergraduate scholarship program. And again, they'd like to know that you are selected for that, and that probably lends some weight to your application. Then they ask about a number of events and have you attended them. So these would be online webinars, they might be in-person information sessions, they might be lectures. Indicate if you've been. That expresses interest in the program. They do like to keep track of who has attended those events. And so if you have attended them, please indicate that. If you have the opportunity to attend one and haven't yet, I would encourage you to do so. Again, it's not a critical part of the evaluation, but it does demonstrate that you are interested in the program enough to at least log on and sit through a webinar. You'll also probably learn something that I think will be valuable for you as you go through the program. And again, finally, what's your primary source of information about the program? Lots of different things that you might check on. Again, this is for statistical purposes only. Admissions events, alumni, students, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, no evaluative content there, just simply for their statistics. All right. Now we get into some more of the things that become a little bit more part of the evaluation. Clearly, you're going to submit a resume as part of the application process, but here's where you get to note down your employment history, where you've worked, what you've learned, what some of the elements and responsibilities you had in those employments. So here's the kind of stuff that you're going to be asked about. So organization name. So maybe it's XYZ Bank. Maybe it's ABC Consulting Firm. Maybe it's your own firm if you're an entrepreneur. So putting down your organization name, your title, where it's located, address, etc., when you started, when you ended. And then they do ask about compensation. So that is, they do like to see it. It's not a key part of the evaluation process, but it does give them a sense of where you stand in the hierarchy of your organization. A little bit of industry. So industries, things along the lines, accounting, aerospace, AI, education, construction, etc. And then function, similar ideas, but basically within that industry, what is your particular area of expertise? And then this is a relatively new question in the last few years, is how did you work? Do you work in an office? Do you go someplace? Is it hybrid? Is it remote? And then this is important. And again, this is more important on your resume than it is here, but the number of direct and indirect reports. So every school, when they're looking at your experience, are looking at, have you managed other people? Do you supervise other people? How do you interact with a team? Those are incredibly important elements of the application and in their evaluation of you. So make sure you include that if there are some. Then we get into job description, talking about what it is you do. And again, your resume will cover much of this in perhaps more detail. So you don't have a lot of space here, but broadly, you want to talk about the key things that you're responsible for. you want to talk about the management responsibilities you have, if you have any, as well as some of the broader key elements of your company, your organization that you are responsible for. And then a little bit on the reason for leaving. And the reason for leaving should always be a positive, never a negative. I found a better opportunity. I mean, if in the case of if you have been gone through the company's gone through reorganization, you lost your job, certainly be truthful about that. But you never want to say, I really hated my boss, and therefore I moved on to something else. Right? So you will do that for every single organization you work for, including some of the internships you might have had while you were an undergrad. Then they will ask total number of months of full-time experience. Again, pretty simple to calculate, be truthful. Any gaps, layoffs, or terminations in your employment, again, be truthful. There'll be a chance to explain what those are if you check yes. And then, is your current employer providing financial support? Again, that's great. If they are, it's not a critical part of the evaluation. So whether it's yes or no, it doesn't really matter to them. They just like to know, again, for statistical purposes more than anything else. Similarly with government-sponsored financial support, military, and whether you're an employee of the University of Chicago. That does have a bearing on tuition and how you are going to be charged. Employees get a bit of a discount. Then they get into professional certifications. So again, a variety of things here in the drop-down: CFA, CPA, doctors, Series 24, Series 3, JD, MD, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So identify what, if any of those you have, and primarily for statistical purposes here. And then here under professional awards, list anything you've earned or won. So it may be an award from your company, it may be an award from your industry, it may be a particularly important speaking opportunity in your industry at a conference of some sort. Any kind of key recognition that you've received from your company or your industry is something you want to put here. Okay. And then again, as I said, you want to upload a professional resume. We generally recommend trying to keep it to a single page, if at all possible. We do a lot of work with our clients to help them craft a resume that really focuses, that hits the high points and keeps it to a single page. Remember that admissions committees are looking at thousands of applications, and you want to make sure that they see the key points quickly and don't have to spend a lot of time sorting through a myriad of bullet points to figure out who you are and what you've done. So we work very closely with clients to help them nail that resume down, get it to a single page, and really highlight the key elements of their work experience and education. And again, on resumes, you want to focus on accomplishments, what you have improved, what you have done, and wherever possible, try to quantify that. So improve revenue, cut costs, managed X number of people, that sort of thing. All right, then we get to letters of recommendations. So you'll be asked here at Booth for 2 letters of recommendation, and they will be submitted by online. So basically, you will provide an email address for your recommender, and then the school will send your recommender a link that they can then begin to fill out the recommendation. The recommendation will consist of a couple of different parts. One will be a set of check boxes to indicate your recommender will rate you on a variety of capabilities. So initiative, responsibility, teamwork, curiosity, those types of things. They'll rate you on a scale of 1 to 5. And then the second part is your recommender will be asked to write a little bit about you and how your recommender thinks you will do both in business school and in your career. So that's where they can talk about all the wonderful things you've done as you've worked with this recommender. Schools typically want to have a recommender who has been or is your current supervisor, so that this person has a real stake in managing you and working with you closely in evaluating your work product. So that's the ideal. that doesn't always, it's not always possible to get a direct supervisor for a variety of reasons, some political, some of you may work for a family business and your supervisor is a family member. That's a little dicier. So there are other options if that is the case. It could be a client, it could be a customer, it could be perhaps not a direct supervisor, but someone else in a reasonable position of authority in your company that knows your work well. And that really is the key. You want every recommender that you are working with to be able to talk authoritatively about your work. So someone that you've worked with closely has seen you grow over time and really has a good handle on what you've been able to do. Okay. A little bit on why you chose the recommenders. This, again, could be as simple as this is my current boss. Or it could be this was someone who I worked with at a prior employer and I worked with them for 3 years and they were very instrumental in helping me grow and develop. Then we get into academics. So most schools are very interested in where you have gone to school and what you have done there. So for every school you've attended, you want to add some information about that school, whether or not you got a degree from there. So there may be degree institutions, even if you did not earn a degree, if you went to a particular university for a year or two and then transferred, you want to indicate, you'll still want to put that in and talk about what you did, when you were there, what you studied, perhaps why you left. You will also have to provide a copy of your transcript from each of those degree institutions. You'll start out with basically uploading an unofficial copy. Hopefully you have one or can get hold of one easily. At the time of admission, the school may then ask for an official copy from those institutions and review that prior to you actually starting school. So then for non-degree institutions, here are some other elements. So again, they want to know everything you've ever done from an academic standpoint. So if you look at the specifics, put in the institution name, and then add update the transcript, upload the transcript. It'll ask for honors, awards, other recognitions you've received. So that could be Dean's List, it could be graduating cum laude, magna, summa cum laude, whatever it might be. It might be special awards, best graduate in the department, anything along those lines you want to note down. Then talks a little bit about undergraduate support. How did you fund your undergraduate studies? And gives them a sense of a little bit of your background and the challenges you might have faced in order to get to university and beyond. And then they'll ask about things like failing grades, disciplinary problems, probation, etc. Again, if you say yes, and again, if you want to be truthful here, so if something has happened, you definitely want to say yes, and then you'll have an opportunity to explain that, either here or in the optional essay that Booth will ask about. They will find out one way or the other, so there's no benefit to you to not being truthful here. And then again, did you attend more than one undergraduate institution? Many people do transfer from one to the other, perfectly fine. Or if you started but didn't complete a postgraduate program, again, you'll have an opportunity to explain why you did not complete it. For those of you for whom English is not a native language, there are a variety of ways to demonstrate your English proficiency listed here. Pretty straightforward. They give examples and ideas of how to communicate that to the admissions committee. There are some ways you can be exempt from those exams or those certificates. If you've earned a degree or gone to a university in this set of countries right here, so basically English-speaking countries, if you've gotten a degree, attended school there, that would be sufficient proof of your English ability. Right. Again, a variety of ways to get a waiver of this. So, okay. All right, then we're getting into kind of the meat of some of the evaluative parts of the application. So test scores. So Booth is looking for either GMAT or GRE for the full-time program. For the executive MBA program, if any of you are interested in that, they will also take the EA. But again, for the full-time program, they'll expect a GMAT or a GRE. You have, they're good for 5 years from the time you take the test. So if you took it a while ago, you might want to double check to see when that the specific date was and whether that score will still be valid in the coming application cycle. And again, they requiring right now self-reported scores. They will check on official scores at some later date if you are admitted. Okay. And they do ask how many times you've taken and received a score for GMAT or GRE. And I know a lot of people take the test and then cancel it and don't get their scores. But if you've taken it multiple times, as most people do, please indicate that you've done so. Again, you want to be as truthful as possible throughout the elements of the application. And then we get to activities. These are things that you have been engaged in, either volunteer or sports or social. Again, it gives the school a better sense of who you are, kind of your interests, helps them understand some of your non-professional background. So there are a variety of student groups that the school has clubs in, so business and professional, cultural, social, sports, etc. So all of those things could be interesting for you, and you might have other activities that would kind of fit into some of those roles. So again, Booth is looking for well-rounded people that are interested in engaging with the community and being part of it. So when you are updating this part of the application, you want to talk about what the organization was. Again, it might have been a volunteer organization. It might have been a sports club. It might have been a varsity team as an undergraduate. What your role was. Did you have a leadership position? Talking a bit about why you participated. Is this something that was going to help you educationally? Was this something that was just for fun? Was it an opportunity to learn a new skill? Whatever it might have been. Again, and you want to do this for every activity that has been important to you. So, and one of the things that we often will tell clients is a lot of folks will, particularly in the volunteer area, if you don't have a lot of volunteer activities, admissions committees can usually sense that you've just started something for the purposes of the application. So if you submit an application for round 1 this year and you've started a volunteer activity perhaps next week, I think the admissions committee will realize that you've basically gotten involved in that just for the purposes of the application. And that does not look as good as you might think. So if this is an opportunity, you want to look at activities that you've been engaged in for a while, and the schools will be looking more closely at particularly volunteer activities, community activities that you've been engaged in at a reasonably high level and for a long period of time. So you don't want to just kind of start up something just because you think you need something on the application. And then we get to the essays. Booth has 2 essays, a new one this year, which I'll get to in just a second. But the first one is a pretty straightforward essay, is how is Booth going to help you achieve your immediate and long-term post-MBA goals? And this is really a combo question. So one is, what is your long-term goal? What is it you want to do? What impact do you want to have in your career? What is the story you want to tell about where you want to go and why that's important? And then how is Booth going to help you get there specifically? So what elements of the Booth education will prepare you for what it is you want to do? So whether that's joining a tech firm that's going to focus on healthcare, or becoming an investor in the next generation of AI products. Why is that important? What impact do you want to have? What problem perhaps do you want to solve? And how is the Booth education, whether that's the flexibility of the curriculum, the rigor of the curriculum, the expertise of the faculty members, the alumni base, the student body, what of those elements are going to help you achieve what you want to do, and how is that going to work? I mean, what elements of the alumni base, the student body, et cetera, will help you get there. So be as specific as you can, but the key element here, in my view, is the goal and why that goal is important, both to you and why it should be important to the school. The new question this year is this one about the pictures. So supposed to pick a picture and talk about how it resonates with you. So this is kind of getting at a variety of things. So first off, you have to interpret the picture, right? And there are many ways to interpret these pictures. And I don't think there's any one right way to do so. So the picture number one looks like a lot of people out having fun, but actually it's a bunch of Booth students at a Chicago Bulls basketball game. So that could be talking about community, talking about connections of that sort. Second picture here is someone raising hand in class. So it could talk about the rigor of the education and the nuts and bolts frameworks that you will learn. Third is a group of people interacting with perhaps different backgrounds. They might talk about that. And the fourth one actually has NVC in the background. That's the New Venture Challenge. This is New Venture Challenge is a business plan competition that Booth started, 25 or 30 years ago. And so maybe you would talk about entrepreneurship there or other elements of interacting with the business community. So I don't think there's a single right answer in terms of the interpretation of these pictures, but what you want to do is explain why these pictures are important to you. What elements of the Booth experience resonate with you, and how are you going to take advantage of those elements? So what about the culture? What about the academics? What about the community is important to you, and how are you going to leverage that in your time there? Okay. So again, something new this year. We'll see if they continue with this picture idea. They'll be evaluating the answers that they get as they go through the applications come this fall. All right. Wrapping up, coming up to wrapping up here. Any other unclear information that need further explanation? So things that may have been a problem in your academic career, background issues, anything that you think might be unclear or that you really haven't had a chance to answer adequately in the other elements of the application. So again, it could be things talking about your academic career, it could be talking about reasons for leaving different jobs. It could be gaps in your resume, gaps in your career. It could be personal background and challenges you faced. So any of those things could be good topics for questions here. And then finally, we get to the acknowledgments. So there is a Booth Honor Code. You're expected to abide by it, live by it. You want to read this section and understand what the ramifications are and understand what the school is expecting of you. And that you need to then check the box that you have certified the information is accurate and that you will agree to all terms of the honor code. So pretty straightforward. You want to do that for every application you're submitting. And then a couple of last little questions. Do you want to be considered for scholarships? I can't imagine anybody saying no, but sometimes maybe not. So I would assume a yes there. And then the next question is, there are third-party awards that don't come directly from the school, but from other organizations. You can decide whether or not you want to provide your information to those organizations to be considered for an award, a scholarship from those. And again, similarly with allowing your details to be shared with Booth students for connecting with the network. Again, I think that's usually a pretty good idea. Get you connected to students who can tell you more about the school, and again, give you some perspective on whether this is a place you want to go. And then finally, basically just a review, making sure that you have filled out all of the aspects of the application that you haven't missed anything, that before you hit submit, all the pieces are there. Again, pretty straightforward. So that's the Booth application from start to finish. Again, much of it is pretty straightforward. It's name and address, and here was my employer. The tricky things come into, the essays, obviously, talking adequately about your employment and being able to craft a response to what were your responsibilities. Sometimes that's a little tricky. You want to make sure you hit highlights and demonstrate that you are able to take initiative, that you can manage other people, that you have had significant accomplishments. So don't ignore some of those little text boxes that seem to be very simple and straightforward. In many cases, they're not. So I'm going to stop sharing here and open up for questions that there might be.
Bill, thank you so much for that incredibly helpful and clear walkthrough of the Chicago application process. I'm going to read some of the questions I have in the chat. Deepika Subedi is asking, if you come from a non-traditional background and have taken additional courses, programs such as MBA Math, Berkeley Haas QRC, or HBS Core, or completed relevant professional training to strengthen your academic readiness, where in the application is it most appropriate to include this information?
All right, so that would all be in the academic section. May also be appropriate to add it to your resume. So again, depending what it was, whether it was, so for example, if you took a math class somewhere and it was from a university and you actually had a transcript, definitely put that into the academic section of the application and upload the transcript. If it is more of a kind of professional certification that isn't coming directly from a university, you could add that to the resume. You could add that to the non-degree institution section of the application itself.
Thank you. Audrey Eman is asking, if we have managed interns, freelancers, etc., would we include those as direct reports?
The easy answer is yes, if you indeed have managed them. And managing in my mind is kind of, you have some evaluative responsibilities for them, or you direct their work product. And whether it's internship or a part-timer, then yes, if you have managed them and are responsible for what they do, definitely mention that.
Thank you. Deepika Subedi, if I attended several admission events prior to starting my application and I use the same email address for both event registration and my application, will the admission committee be able to see these past events as part of my engagement record? Is even attending only visible to the committee after an application is officially started or submitted?
That's a great question. And I say that because I'm not absolutely certain of how the schools are currently tracking who attends events. But I think the basic answer is yes. They will be able to tell that you have attended. And they start tracking that even before you submit an application or start an application. So they will have a sense of who has attended these events early on from your registration for the event. And then they will be able to connect the dots, so to speak, once you start an application.
Thank you. Rameshwar Jaiswal asks, are the reapplicants required to submit new letters of recommendations?
I didn't go into the re-app section. Typically, they'll ask for one additional letter of recommendation, in addition to all the other elements, kind of updating them on what you have done. So yes, you would be asked for one additional letter of recommendation.
Thank you. Amandeep Singh asks, what if someone worked full-time, professional job in tech, while completing undergraduate part-time? Would that experience count?
If it was truly full-time, then yes. Again, part of that becomes, how do you tell that story? How do you explain what it is that you did? How do you communicate to the admissions committee that this wasn't simply a part-time work-study job, but this was a legitimate job with real responsibilities and key learnings? And there are ways to do that in both the essays and in the little short description boxes in the professional experience section. So yes, if this was a full-time job and then you were earning your undergraduate degree on the side, so to speak, definitely that would count.
Thank you, Bill. I have another question from Utsav. Many schools like CBS, Kellogg, and other M7 have very different yet compelling values and learnings and future opportunities. So what is the criteria an applicant should weigh in to choose between schools they apply to or enroll in?
Okay, so my view on this may be a little different than some, but from the perspective of which schools will help you get where you want to go, particularly if we're talking about the M7 or the top 10 or the top 12, any of those schools will provide you with a great education, will provide you with the career resources to connect you to people that you might want to talk to about employment, and will basically prepare you for whatever career you're interested in. That being said, each of the schools has a different culture, different character, perhaps a slightly different worldview. And that is really the distinguishing factor between most of the top schools. So it's, people will argue, oh, you should go here if you're interested in finance, and go here if you're interested in marketing, or here if you're interested in private equity, what have you. And there are, at the margin, perhaps some elements to that make it true. But for the most part, any of the schools in the top 10 will provide you with the education you need to get into those industries. So I suggest to students, when they're thinking about various schools, to focus more on the culture and the opportunities and the programs specific to that school, rather than, is this school going to help me get into VC or PE or what have you? Again, with some minor exceptions. So VC folks, Stanford is a great place for that. Private equity, Harvard may have a slight edge, but all in all, any of the top schools are great places to get an education. All of them are very competitive, so you should never put all your eggs in that one basket, even if you think that school is the perfect one for you. The chances of being admitted are, at most of these schools they're not high, regardless of who you are and what your background is. So you want to spread your applications around a little bit to make sure that you do indeed get admitted to at least one.
Bill, thank you so much for that insightful and thoughtful walkthrough. It was a pleasure learning from you and understanding the deeper layers of what it takes to be a strong Booth applicant. To everybody who joined us today, thank you so much for being here. If we did get to your specific questions, please do not hesitate to reach out directly to the Booth admissions team. And also, Bill is available for a free consultation on fortunaadmissions.com. I've added the link to that in the chat window. Please go through that and book yourself a free consultation with him. They're always happy to help. A quick reminder, the session recording will be available for a review after this event. And to everyone who joined the Booth School of Business session at the application walkthrough event, thank you again for spending time with us. Very special thank you to Bill Kluser for generously sharing the expertise, insights, and practical advice. We hope this session has given you some clarity and confidence as you move forward with your MBA journey. Wishing you best. And Bill, do you have any final words to say to our applicants?
No, I just best wishes for all of you. I know this can be a stressful time. I do want to emphasize that I guess this is an exercise in telling your story. And one of the things we try to do at Fortuna Admissions is help you tell that story. So best wishes to all of you. If you would like to learn more about what we do, again, fortunaadmissions.com. Happy to give you some thoughts on your candidacy and where you might have the best educational fit.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.